In this module, we will be introducing you to the concept of sustainable agriculture, what it is, what its principles are, and its role and significance in the green economy. The agriculture sector is experiencing a shift from intensive farming practices that became popular during the 1960s towards sustainable agriculture principles during the 2010s and now into the 2020s. This has been mainly because of climate change and how changing weather patterns and increasing volatility has made natural resources more scarce and inputs more expensive. It should be noted that technology advancements and regulatory amendments in recent years have also meant that intensive farming is no longer the most profitable way to farm. The business case for sustainable agriculture has become clearer and stronger. But what is sustainable agriculture? The term is pretty contested, particularly between different countries and in different contexts. The most common definition is that sustainable agriculture is the practice of farming to meet society's present food and textile needs without compromising on the ability of future generations to meet their needs. Taking a look at conventional intensive agricultural practices and considering them through the lens of sustainable agriculture, it is easy to immediately see the differences in farming approaches. Most often, intensive agricultural practices include monoculture, which is when farmers plant the same crop on the same plot of land at the same time every year. Sustainable agriculture encourages the use of crop rotation and animal grazing mixed into the activities happening on the same plot of land. Where conventional agriculture makes use of mechanical plowing and synthetic inputs, sustainable agriculture focuses more on no-till or reduced till practices, intercropping, and organic composting. All of the concepts and practices highlighted in the previous slide can be synthesized into main themes, 3 underlying principles of sustainable agriculture, which are economic profitability, environmental health, and socio-economic equity. Within the green economy, sustainable agriculture is a key sector because it uses a significant amount of natural resources, such as land and fresh water. 60% of terrestrial land is occupied by cropland, pastures, and forests, and global agriculture accounts for about 70% of freshwater usage. And in addition, it can be a catalyst for development and job creation. These benefits are particularly impactful in South Africa, where we deal with the triple challenges of poverty, unemployment, and inequality. The case for the growth of sustainable agriculture and its ability to address some of these chronic issues in South Africa's economy is quite clear. However, there is still significant work required to develop pathways for players in the agricultural space to move to sustainable agriculture in a way that is just and equitable. The elements listed on the slide, such as stable financing, adaptive policies, and stakeholder dialogues, can only be impactful if they are implemented in an integrated manner. Systemic change cannot be successful if work is done in silos. And the transition from conventional agriculture to sustainable agriculture doesn't need to be all at once. Frameworks like Gleesman's 5 levels of transitioning to agroecology systems can be used to develop pathways that are either incremental or transformational. They can target practices that aim to improve current systems or can focus on introducing alternative practices. In the previous slide, the focus has been mostly on sustainable agriculture at a primary agriculture production level. But it must be noted that there are opportunities to implement sustainable agricultural practices along the whole agri-value chain, and these can often work in tandem with practices at a primary agriculture production level to have compounding benefits. Additionally, the Internet of Things and greater incorporation of technology into agricultural production has given rise to greater inclusivity as traditional barriers of entry are torn down. In Module 2, the focus will now shift to real-world applications of sustainable agriculture and the choices decision makers around the world are taking to invest in sustainable agriculture. The focus of global agriculture is towards implementing sustainable, environmentally friendly, and non-linear production solutions to intensify production to feed the growing population by 2030. As a result, the trends highlighted will center on production methods that increase efficiency, mitigate climate risks, and increase resilience. These major trends are in improving soil health, that is investing in technologies and practices that improve soil's bioactivity and ability to store moisture. The second trend is in novel farming methods such as hydroponics, aeroponics, and aquaponics. The third trend is smart farming, the use of technology to better record and manage the use of resources on farms. The final trend is in the circular economy, minimizing and reusing waste streams generated during production. Examples of trends within improved soil health have been the incentives for producers to engage in regenerative agricultural practices, reduce the use of pesticides, and impose punitive measures for those who don't actively limit their carbon emissions. Significantly, these examples show that the shift to sustainable agriculture doesn't need to be driven by farmers themselves. There are levers that policymakers, industry associations, retailers, and consumers can pull to drive the growth of sustainable agriculture. In terms of novel farming, the use of these growing systems has opened up opportunities to grow a greater variety of produce for more cycles in the year. It has also opened the opportunity to expand on what can be produced for other industries and applications, such as microbes that can be used in pharmaceutical and cosmetic industries. Smart farming highlights how agricultural producers can minimize risk by using mobile apps that advise them on how to use resources more efficiently, as well as being able to forecast and detect instances of disease or fungus, thus limiting food loss by taking preventative action. So as we come to the end of Module 2, I want to make sure that moving forward, these main points are taken away. The 3 principles of sustainable agriculture are economic profitability, environmental health, and socio-economic equity. The major trends in sustainable agriculture are improved soil health, novel farming, and smart farming. It is also important to highlight that all stakeholders can play a role in supporting sustainable agriculture, not just farmers. And ICT can be useful in providing support for farmers and promoting inclusivity and equity in South Africa's agricultural sector.
South Africa has a highly diverse agricultural sector, consisting of a range of agricultural products such as grains, oilseeds, deciduous and subtropical fruits, livestock and vegetables. This is largely enabled by the varied climatic regions that span from subtropical to the Mediterranean. However, agricultural production in South Africa is constrained by limited resources. About 12% of the land in South Africa is considered arable, with 3% considered fertile land. South Africa is ranked as the 30th driest country in the world, characterized by uneven rainfall distribution, extreme climate, and evaporation rates. Climate change impacts will exacerbate the pressure on the country's natural resources. Projections to 2050 indicate declining rainfall, increased drought and flood cycles, which will further affect water resources. The declining returns on soil due to conventional practices, rising input costs and regulatory pressure further worsen the situation and place the long-term resilience of the sector into question. As a result, there is a need for more innovative approaches to transition the sector to be more productive, healthy, and environmentally friendly. As seen across the globe, trends are emerging in South Africa to support the shift to a sustainable agricultural sector. Environmental and economic impacts of climate change, technological advancement, regulatory changes, and consumer preferences are driving the shift to a sector that is resource efficient, productive, and reduces food loss and waste. We will explore these trends in terms of emerging technologies and practices, regulatory changes, and market forces driving the transition in South Africa's agricultural sector. The farming sector in South Africa comprises developed commercial, smallholder, and subsistence farming sector. As such, the transition journey, technologies, and practices implemented will vary across the different types of farms. A study we conducted last year adapted the Gleesman framework to capture this very transition journey. Depending on the state of the farm, the technologies and practices can be introduced incrementally, or a transformational approach can be adopted. In this case, a farm can increase the efficiency of the current practices by introducing high to low tech systems such as sensor technologies, irrigation systems, or protective cover. Substitute alternative practices and inputs such as no-till or cover crops, or alternative inputs such as organic fertilizer. Introduce novel farming methods such as soilless farming systems, for example, hydroponic technologies. There are several examples where these measures have been implemented at various scales. A few of these include sprayer drones at Mandi's Forest in Mpumalanga. Over 29,000 hectares is under protective cover. 25% of total area under commercial crop livestock systems in South Africa have adopted conservation agriculture. To hone in on these examples, a case study conducted in Greater Tzaneen in Limpopo highlights two small-scale vegetable production systems. Farm A, a conventional farm, provides livelihoods and employment for 4 people, casual employees, and direct sales to locals. It provides skills through participation and guidance from government advisory services and formal mentorship. The farm further supplies tomatoes to a processing factory. It also has drip irrigation and no herbicides. Farm B, an organic farm, has full-time and casual workers, majority females, and direct sales to locals. It provides information sharing through organic cooperatives. It further supplies local and national formal and informal markets. The farm has drip irrigation, reduced tillage practices, and organic inputs. It also uses no agrochemicals. Both farms A and B are examples of farms instituting incremental changes. Both farms are addressing key aspects of the green economy in terms of the impact on job creation, governance, economy, and protection of ecosystems. Farm B is a step further with introduction of drip irrigation, reduced tillage, and use of organic inputs. Produce from this type of farm can attain premium prices if certified as organic produce. The transition to a sustainable agriculture sector is governed by a range of policies and regulations that influence the trajectory of sustainable agricultural production. There are several of these in place, ranging from the National Development Plan, the Climate Change Bill, and the Industry Master Plans. However, a large part of the transition lies with how these are implemented and enforced for us to realize a sustainable agricultural sector. There are several reasons that drive preference for specific produce. A few of these are highlighted by the Produce Marketing Association and include population diversification. Many countries are now facing the effects of an aging population. Food is being increasingly looked at for its health benefits with a focus on preventative wellness. Accelerated urbanization demands increased production and availability of food all year round. Solutions to this includes diversifying the supply chain and increasing the connections to local communities through models such as indoor farming, pre-ordering by selling partners, and small-scale production formats. Moving into the exercise, a 15-hectare blueberry farm is being established in Mpumalanga. This investment is expected to create jobs and contribute to long-term prosperity by empowering the local communities through skill development and training. In what ways can this farm become sustainable to ensure its long-term profitability? There are major barriers limiting the transition to sustainable agriculture. These include financial, regulatory, and skills barriers across a range of green technologies and practices. A few to note include, for example, improved soil health. The policy barriers there are lack of incentive programs that enable farmers to shift to regenerative practices, governance and partnership models that are not fully adopted to support sustainable agriculture. The skills barrier is the lack of understanding and awareness of the business case. The financial barriers are high transition costs and a long return of investment. Looking at smart farming, the policy barriers are licensing and regulations and lack of digital infrastructure to enable internet access. The skills barriers are poor digital literacy and understanding the value of the information collected to farmers. The financial barriers are the cost of purchasing new technology and the time invested in setting up the farms. Despite the dominance of the large-scale commercial sector in terms of land area, volume and value of outputs, the South African government recognizes the potential role of small-scale farming for the economy and job creation. However, most smallholder and emerging farmers lack economies of scale and as such generally face numerous challenges to the adoption of sustainable practices and technology. This includes the lack of creditworthiness, market access, land tenure security, no collaterals, affordability, lack of technical skills, and lack of appropriate infrastructure, including electricity and gas. There are efforts and solutions to remove some of the barriers. Case studies of these include coordinated sector plans such as the Smart Agri Plan. This plan provides an example of governance and partnership models to drive the transition towards sustainable agriculture. To provide an overview of the plan, the Smart Agriculture and Climate Resilience Project was a collaborative project between the Western Cape Department of Agriculture and the Western Cape Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning and the University of Cape Town. The development of the Smart Agri Plan started in 2014 and implementation commenced in May 2016. The plan highlighted coordinated efforts to accelerate climate action in the province. The plan was developed and implemented to strengthen the cooperation between the agricultural sector and local governments to ensure the agriculture sector is more resilient to climate change, thereby securing jobs and ensuring economic development. Another solution is tools for information access. There are several tools that are designed to increase awareness on the risks of climate change and provide information on opportunities available in the agriculture sector to be more resilient. A few to note are the Green Agri, which is the non-stop information portal for all agricultural stakeholders. The portal allows for industry participants to communicate interactively on all agricultural matters. Another tool is Green Fingers, a tool to support local farming communities in Mpumalanga. The platform highlights farming and agricultural activities in the province from funding opportunities, events, and guidelines on sustainable farming practices. Finally, innovative finance mechanism. Access to finance is a key barrier limiting the adoption of green technologies and services. There are a few examples of innovative finance models to unlock and accelerate investment in smart agri practices and technologies. And one to note is the Agri-Industrial Fund. The Industrial Development Corporation, in partnership with the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, has launched a joint Agri-Industrial Fund. The 1 billion Rand Fund is an initiative aimed at addressing funding constraints facing Black farmers and breaking entry barriers to commercial farming. In summary, transitioning to sustainable agriculture has its challenges and barriers. According to the IFC, 5 million jobs are estimated between 2020 and 2030 in scaling climate-smart agriculture in sub-Saharan Africa. Thus, it requires concerted efforts from all stakeholders collaborating to unlock the opportunities it presents and realize the job potential for a climate-smart agriculture sector. Looking at the last example, and to reiterate, a 15-hectare blueberry farm is being established in Mpumalanga. This investment is expected to create jobs and contribute to long-term prosperity by empowering the local communities through skill development and training. What factors can inhibit the farm in the transition to sustainable agriculture? And in what ways can your department support this farm?